Hey guys, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the lessons are going to look like for First Contact. There's a few components, so I think this will help kind of clarify it for everybody. So just give you a bit of background. First Contact is based on an Australian show originally, which was about six Australians who visited Aborigines cultures all over Australia to learn a little bit more and have kind of some of their stereotypes confronted. And when a woman named Stephanie, and I forget her last name, but when she saw this show, she thought, that would be great in Canada to also maybe help some Canadians understand Indigenous cultures around Canada a little bit more. So that's how the show was born. They put out a survey and eventually chose six contestants that had pretty strong views on Indigenous Canadians. And these six, over 28 days, will be visiting a bunch of different places all over Canada to have some of their stereotypes and misconceptions confronted. So step one, we're actually going to do a little kind of pre-blog. And actually right now, given everything going on in the United States, I think this is a very timely one. A lot of people think that the United States kind of has a much more racist background than Canada. I'm going to ask you to watch two videos about the current situation in the States. You may have heard about the protests going on for, I think today's the sixth day. It's all over a person named George Floyd who was killed by a police officer who kneeled on his neck for too long, over almost 8 minutes, and because it was reported that they thought he used a $20 counterfeit bill in a store. So um, the man ended up dying, and now people are protesting around the United States saying that far too many African Americans have died in police hands, and this is kind of shows the greater kind of unconscious bias that many people in the States have and the systematic racism throughout the United States. So I want you to watch those videos, and then I want you to think, because sometimes we tend to watch these videos and think that this doesn't happen in Canada. So I want you to think about your own views on that. Do you believe there's racism in Canada, in Canadian society? How about in Penticton? Is it okay to make a racist joke or look and laugh at a racist meme if no one from the group is present with you? Is there anything we can do to stop racism? And what can we do as individuals to help lessen it? So I want you to answer those questions in your blog. Just write in this case, I want you to write each one as a small paragraph, 3 to 5 sentences. So explain your ideas. Don't just say yes or no, please. And this blog is due Friday, June 5th. So I want you to do this before you watch First Contact. Then I've also put two videos on my website that I'd like you to watch. One's about the rail blockades back in January, and the other one is about how Asians in Canada, the Asian community, has been treated since the coronavirus outbreak. So please take a look at those videos. Step two. So this, you're going to, now that you have done the pre-blog, you're going to watch the first episode of First Contact. And on my website, you'll see a button that says episode 1, and it's going to take you to a website called TiVo. And here you're going to watch the first of 3 episodes of First Contact. And as you're watching it, I want you to think about the following 3 questions. What was frustrating to you in that particular episode and why? What was the most powerful moment and why? And what questions do you still have after watching this episode? I would like you to answer those 3 questions just as one paragraph. So you don't need to write a paragraph for each, although if you wanted to, that'd be fine. But you can just write it as one paragraph. And that will also be due by this Friday, June 5th. Step 3, you're going to watch the second episode, and then you're actually just going to do the same thing. Another blog write-up, this time due by Tuesday, June 9th. What was frustrating to you? What was powerful to you? What questions do you still have? And again, you can do it all as one paragraph. Step 4, this time after watching the third episode in this season, we're going to meet on Teams on Thursday, June 11th, and we're going to use those 3 questions we've already been talking about. What's frustrating? What's powerful? What questions do you have? But we're going to use this to kind of talk more specifically about episode 3, but of course we can bring up all of the episodes. And then I'm also going to ask you to think about, do you believe, so on my website, I had a quote that the producer of this show had wanted to use the show to kind of promote reconciliation in Canada, promote the healing of the negative relationship traditionally between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadians. So do you agree with her that this show has helped maybe start the conversation or moving forward a little bit with reconciliation in Canada? So we will have a Teams meeting to discuss the ending of this season. And that's on Thursday, June 11th. Finally, step 5, I've got 2 post-show interviews on my website. I'm going to say that they're optional, but I think they're really interesting, especially the one where they interview the contestants afterwards. I found for me, it answered a lot of questions that I had after the series was over. And I think it's really interesting to see their thoughts on the whole process a couple months later. So I'd highly recommend watching that one, but it is optional. I've also put on an interview with the producers and some of the hosts, and that one's really interesting as well. You can watch the whole thing if you want. Again, it's optional, but I've also just picked out 3 short and powerful clips that I thought that you might enjoy. So again, your choice, but I recommend watching them because I think you'll find them interesting. But after you have watched at least all 3 episodes and maybe potentially the post-show interviews, I'd like to finish up this lesson with a paragraph. So you're going to write a reflective paragraph of 150 to 300 words, and of course more is fine, but less is not. How's the show going to kind of change your perspective? How are you going to think or act differently now that you've watched this show? Has it changed your perspective around anything? Did it teach you anything new? Did it maybe challenge one of your own prior beliefs? And now, what are you going to do with this information? So I've said before, education is only important or only useful if you choose to do something with it. So how are you going to share this knowledge, or what are you going to do with this information from now on? So I want you to use those 4 points to frame your paragraph. And what I'm going to be marking it for is analysis. So I'm going to be looking at, are you justifying your opinions and ideas using examples and explanations, and if possible, terminology, but mostly ideas, examples, and explanations. So about 150 to 300 words. That is due Friday, June 11th, after you have completed all the episodes, the blogs, and had a chance to talk to your classmates about it. So that's everything I would like you to do with First Contact. I hope that makes a little bit more sense now, and I hope that you enjoy what I think is a really powerful show. So good luck.